This talk, The Heart of Innovation, it kind of was an idea that formed out of a podcast that I have, which I'll talk about in a moment. And I've had a lot of interviews with a lot of people and talking about what it takes to create incredibly successful companies, thriving teams, projects, programs. And this really comes down to innovation, because if we're not really innovative, we can't do phenomenal work in our organizations. So my talk idea came out of these conversations, and I'll share some stories, not as many as I thought I would share, because as it happens, as Jose touched on, the talks kind of evolve themselves just before the talk happens. So there's some other things I really want to talk with you about that aligns with that. So hopefully you're willing to go on a journey with me a little bit. So what is innovation? Innovation means that we're introducing something new or different, the act of innovating, yada, yada. But what does it really feel like? What does it mean? When you're innovative at work, what is the experience like for you? Do you feel stressed? Do you feel, constrained? Do you feel dull? Do you feel bored? Do you feel pressure? Or do you feel excited? Do you feel excited? What does excitement look like when you're excited? It wasn't that. And innovation itself, there's a lot of ideas and models around this. Jeff's keynote last night, he touched on design thinking, where there's a space of empathy with people, and we bring it through different processes. So there's design think and bringing it into lean user design and agile methods. And all of these can fit well together. There's other things that we could fit into a model like this. But there's a lot of companies who really, really struggle to be innovative, even though they're following these models. So what's the difference? This came from Forbes Coaches Council in 2017 in July, and companies are really investing a lot of time and energy and money into being innovative and applying processes. And that's great for our brains, because we're in, brain, think, work, right? And we get paid to do really good thinking work, which is really cool. But it's not just about your thinking process. It's not just about saying we need to be outside of the box and think differently. The thing about brain think is that we are locked into our experiences to date and what we've learned and experienced so far. We know what we know, and we don't know what we don't know. So how do we engage something different that's innovative? How do we step into a culture that creates innovation? Executives know that we need to create a culture of innovation in order to be really innovative. But what does that mean? Again, it's not about how we think necessarily. Mindset is a part of it. It's a piece of the puzzle, absolutely. But there's something deeper than that, and it comes down to how do we feel? How do we engage ourselves to feel that excitement? Where does that come from? When you're excited, do you just feel it up here? Do you feel it somewhere in your body? Where do you feel it in your body? Shout it out. Pardon? Your gut, your heart, yeah. When you're in flow, when you've been in flow with something, what does that feel like? How do we engage that? How do we create that at work in a space that allows everyone to do that? So that's what we're going to explore and talk about today. Just going to touch an example with Virgin. As a very innovative company, has very large number of subsidiaries as part of the company. They make a very large amount of money every year. And I love the Virgin brands. I love Richard Branson a lot for what he does and how he shows up. So I was blessed, and some of you who heard my keynote here a couple years ago, I was blessed to hear him speak a couple years ago. And he talked about a lot of the things that they're doing and why they're able to be as innovative as they are. Because some people have tried to replicate their model and how they operate. And you just take the model and apply it into a new context, a new business, and it fails. Why is it failing? Because he's focusing on other things. It's not about the process. And you can't think your way through this stuff. You have to feel your way into how do we create space for renewal, for people to have space to think and to be and to explore, where we have pause time and downtime. How do we align our values, and how do we know what our values are, and how do we act in alignment with those values? How do we create focus on the things that really matter and align all of that with what is our purpose as an organization? What is my purpose as a person in this organization? And when they focus on those things, clearly my battery is not very strong. When we focus on those things, when they focus on these things, he notes and people in the company note that they have increased innovation. They have a happier workforce, higher productivity, and reduced costs. They're willing to experiment. And experimentation is big, and an experiment to fail is a big thing, but failure is really scary for people. But when we focus on these other core things up here, we're okay to experiment. I'm going to share a little bit of stories around that later. So what does this really come down to? It comes down to connection. We're going to go a little bit deeper in a moment, but what is connection really? Connection means that we're able to connect with ourselves. I know who I am. I know my gifts. I know what I love. I know all of my shadow stuff, all the things that's getting in the way of me being awesome at work, and the things that are getting in the way of me being awesome with other people. And I'm able to own that and not put it on other people. I'm also able to connect with my colleagues. I'm also able to connect with my purpose and the purpose of the organization. When we're not connected to the purpose in our organization, we kind of just go through the motions. Raise your hand if you've been going through the motions at any point in time at your job. Does that feel like you can innovate? Yes or no? I know I can't. When I'm going through the motions, I'm like, oh crap. There's nothing I can do that's going to be really innovative and wonderful for my clients. I want to connect with my values. And not just connect with them and know them, but I want to live them. I have to live my values in every single moment, so I'm not compromising them. Connect with my colleagues, connect with my staff and my partners. And what does that really all mean? Connecting with all of these people and connecting with my work in a meaningful way. This means that we have to engage our hearts. You probably saw that coming. It's called the heart of innovation. We have to connect with our hearts. So I want to introduce you to something. There's some really beautiful work going on in scientific communities. One organization called the HeartMath Institute, and they're doing a lot of scientific study that explains how we actually function. Most of us believe that all of our ideas and our decisions all come from the brain first, but the science is showing that our heart actually has a complex nervous system, and our heart actually is transmitting 500 times more information to the brain than the brain communicates to the rest of the body. What that means is that the brain is actually in service to the heart. What that really means is that the heart is guiding all of the decisions that are happening in your entire system, in your entire brain, physiologically, biologically, mentally. It's really, really cool science. So there's something here around heart rhythm patterns. So you might be familiar with the term congruence. Congruence means I'm in alignment within myself, outside of myself, and the people around me. They're using the term coherence and incoherence. And what they're measuring is that the emotions that I have within myself are measurable in my heart. And it's actually the heart gives the cue for how I'm feeling before I know how I'm feeling. That information gets transmitted up into the brain and the rest of the autonomic nervous system in all sorts of different ways. I'm not going to get into all of the science, but it's a really fascinating thing. So when you step and sit with this, if I'm frustrated and I'm worried and I'm anxious, that actually impairs my whole biological system, that impairs my brain function. That means I can't think as clearly. That means I have no space for innovation. I'm just in survival mode. I'm just trying to get by. When I'm in space of positive emotions like appreciation and love and joy, and I feel peace, I have space. I have space to feel at ease and to trust that we can collectively come up with some beautiful things together. So in most organizations, unfortunately, what I see happening is there's a lot of stress. There's a lot of anxiety. There's a lot of fear. There's a lot of worry. If that's the predominant way of being, how are we ever going to be possible to create innovative new solutions? It's not possible. We just try to like cram it down. We're like, we have to be more innovative and I need to force you into it. It doesn't work that way. It creates more instability in our system. So in terms of how the heart affects how we feel, this is the first thing that happens. Disordered heart rhythms signal the brain that we're feeling stress. If we have ordered heart rhythms, it's a whole other situation. This goes up into the first brain, in the medulla, which regulates our entire autonomic nervous system. Good to know. There's a second brain, which includes the amygdala, that monitors heart patterns and other body responses, and then the third brain monitors the activity in the second brain and names the feelings. So that's how it works with your feelings. How it happens with your thinking, the medulla regulates basic life functions, the thalamus synchronizes cortical activity. What that means is that when it hits up into the cortex of your brain, the core cortex, where all of your thinking happens, you're either shutting off the valve to think clearly, or you're opening it up. This is really critical to know. So we talk about stress and the effect of stress in the work environments, but we don't really get the impact in terms of our creativity and our innovation. We don't really get the impact in terms of our bottom line in our business. We also don't really get, we're starting to talk about it more, but the impact on our physiological being ourselves, and the impact on our family and our friends and our entire way of being. And I know this personally, like having hit burnout points in my career where I've been so debilitated where I couldn't go to work for like a couple of weeks. In one instance, for 6 weeks, I had to take off in order to get myself back together. And that's a horrible place to be. And many people in organizations are running on this system of being in constant stress. And your heart is actually the key for that. So how do we change that? That's where we're going to share a few tips and stories that people have shared with me in conversation. So a few secrets. This comes from my podcast, Lead with Love, and some other conversations that I've had. I've had season 1 in the spring. Season 2 is coming when I get it out. I have a backlog of about 12 more conversations to put out, and many, many more other people to talk to. But I'm going to share with 4 different people specifically because I was hearing the same messages from people in every single conversation I was having. And I adore all of these people, and I'm so grateful that I'm able to share their messages and their stories. So the first person, if you're familiar with, is Lisa Adkins. You familiar with her? She has the Agile Coaching Institute, and I love her. She was my Scrum Master certification teacher, like in 2010, very long time ago. And I just kind of fell in love with her that day. And in our conversation, she shared with me that she actually wasn't at her best then. I said, you were really great at holding space for people. And she said, I don't know that I actually knew how to do that then, but thanks for saying so. And then she shared a story about when she was a project manager before she came into doing what she's doing now. She was a very good project manager. To the point of that, people who know her and love her now and knew her then would say she was the best. She was the worst of the best. Like, she was the best of the worst, but it was really awful. She was awful because she was controlling. She shared a story with me where she was working on putting out, back in the 90s, she's working on the Mayo Clinic website before websites were really out in the world. It was like, first things going out online. And she was the project manager for this project, and they hit a critical point on a Friday where everything was going wrong. And she insisted with the people that she was working with. She said, you have to work this weekend. And one fellow in particular said, I can't. I have commitments with my family, my daughter's birthday, this and that. And she said, you don't have a choice. You have to stay. And she looks back now, and she shared that she really wishes that she could find who this person was and apologize to him because she realizes how badly she behaved. But she didn't feel that she had another choice. She said, this is the way it is in our organization. We operate under stress. We force creativity out of people. We make it happen. She didn't know any better. And it was a really powerful story to hear that this person that I adore and I respect so much recognizes that she just behaved really badly, but she did the best she could given where she was at. Her message for me was about the power of letting go, being willing to be uncomfortable and inconvenienced by the world by not having things go the way I want them to go. What would it be like to let go? To stop thinking that you need to have everything in order and under control. So that's a great idea, but that incites a lot of the crazy patterns in our hearts. So how do we create safety to do that? What does that take? She shared a story with me around mindfulness and how she learned how to step into mindfulness, and it was with a particular mentor and coach that she had, who actually lived down the street from her and was doing well in the Agile world also. And he just would give her feedback on her behavior until she finally got it, that she was just doing some bad choices. She's making bad choices. And to get her to stop and think and to feel into the moment and say, what do I really want to be doing here? What is it really like to be, a supportive leader rather than a controlling leader? So then we started talking a bit about meditation and mindfulness, which are, more popular things to talk about in the world. But it also feels overwhelming for people to, step out and say, I need to go meditate for 20 minutes. When you're in the workplace and trying to get work done, that's a hard thing to do. So one of her tips is, how do I calm myself down to trust in the moment, to let go of needing to be in control of the time so that we can allow things to unfold with people, to discover in the moment what could happen so that we can be innovative. But I need to calm my system down in order to do that. What can I do? She said, there's a small thing that I did that, did a lot of good for me. I realized that I was walking to meetings all the time. I was always in meetings, walking to meetings. Do you spend a lot of time in meetings? Still in the Agile world, we're doing this. What's going on? But we can take advantage of that time walking between meetings and mindfully walk. There's some things that you can do where you just walk really slowly and feel your whole body touching the ground. Feel your whole body moving. A practice like that, just really slow and really mindful, shifts your entire nervous system to shut off all of the crazy patterns. The other thing that you can do while you're doing that is breathing really slowly and deeply. Like counting to 4 in, hold it, and count to 4 out. And let it go. It's such a simple, small thing that you can do to really shift your entire nervous system so that you can engage some other aspect of your being other than your brain that's freaking out all the time. So you can sit in a space of calm and ease. When we're calm and at ease, we have space for happiness and joy and creativity. And these things really, really matter. The other thing that she said to focus on when she's doing this walking and slowly is asking herself, how do I want to feel when I walk into this meeting? How do I want to feel when I walk into this room? Not what do I need to think, not what do I need to say, just how do I want to feel? And stepping into feeling that feeling. And then remembering a moment in time when I felt like that and using that memory to bring my system into that state. So that when you walk into a meeting where you need to be creative and innovative with other people, you're like, oh yeah, I know what that's like. I've been here before. I'm going to put myself back in that state. So I've shifted my entire system to go into the more calm patterns, which now allows space to open up in my brain to actually access new ways of thinking and new ways of being. And even better, to have new ideas spring forth that you have no idea where they came from, but they sound kind of magical. There's something beautiful that happens there. So Lisa's message at the end really was around that people are naturally creative, resourceful, and whole. And her state of letting go allowed her to see that and to feel it and to trust in that. But she had to learn how to let go and how to shift her entire state of being in order to do that. And you don't need to go whole hog and go really intense and deep into behaving this way. I do. I meditate every day. unless I don't, and then I'm kind of like off my rocker for the day. I feel really nervous and anxious, and I'm like have crazy thoughts. Meditation calms all of that down for me. And if I'm having an extra tough day, I meditate longer. This morning, actually, I had a moment like that. My computer went through an automatic update last night, and it wasn't done when I woke up early to finish my slides. And I just said, oh crap. And I was feeling the nervousness, I was feeling fearful, and I'm like, I might not have slides to use, and I'm okay with that, but how am I going to reference those diagrams without that? And it was to the point up here, some of you might have noticed, my computer wasn't loading at all until literally just before Jose stepped on stage. So what I did this morning, because my computer wasn't working, and I'm like, oh crap, I just said, well, I guess I'm meditating. And that's what I did. I shut everything into a different direction. I was still feeling some nerves when I got up, but it's okay. It all worked out, and I just said, I have tools, I can breathe through it. But the same thing applies in your organization, in your space of work. How often do you feel stressed or anxious or worried or concerned? How often do you feel afraid about what might happen or what can't happen? Or how often do you feel that you don't know what's going to happen and that worries you? Or you think your team is stuck and stagnant and we can't get off of this treadmill? These little practices really make a big difference, because when you get your whole system like kind of in a space of ease, you can access your brain and you can like find ways to solve the problems that you have so that you can be innovative and creative. Another friend of mine, Sirajudin, I think I said his name correctly, he started a company called Temenos in 2012. And what he works with is people, helping them to create spaces and containers of safety in their organizations. And the reason why he works on that is because after many years of consulting work before that, he realized that this is where the problems were at. People were struggling and frustrated that I can't tell you how many technology problems I've had in this long trip I've been on. Oh my gosh. It's been nonstop. So he's working with people and helping them to create containers of safety. What does that really mean? We talk about psychological safety and safety in the workplace and creating spaces for people to be heard and listened to, which I advocate for all of those things. If you know me, you know that I do. But we need to go a step deeper beyond that to really sit with not just empathy and compassion for people, but first for ourselves. And that may seem like a selfish thing, but if I don't feel safe, how am I going to help others to feel safe to be creative? I can't. It's impossible. One of the things that they talk about in the HeartMath Institute, which they've measured, is electromagnetic frequencies that emit from the brain, outside of our bodies, and also electromagnetic frequencies that emit from outside of our hearts. The heart field, it's like a torus, if you know what that is. It's like this bubble with the hole that goes through. Anyways, it's a thing. So the heart field, the electromagnetic frequency that comes from the heart field is significantly larger than that from the brain. And that's what's, again, driving all of our patterns, our biology, our physiology, our brains. And in order to create safety at work, we have to calm ourselves down. And there's other ways to do that. One of the things that he talks about is stepping into a state of flow, where you can trust in the moment what's going to be discovered without pre-planning everything. Now, how do we do that? Well, there's different techniques that he uses, and one of them is coming to a space of storytelling, story sharing in the workplace. There's something that happens when we carry our thoughts inside of ourselves all the time around how we feel and some of our experiences. It shuts our entire system down, where we kind of get paralyzed in our minds, because we kind of just keep reliving the same stories and same experiences until we actually come to terms with them and resolve them. So this act of story sharing our stories with each other in a team setting, helps to let all of our guard kind of go down. It creates a space of safety because now I'm connecting with you. It was something that really happened with me, and you're hearing me, and vice versa. I'm hearing Anne-Marie share her stories. And then we create a container of safety as we share more stories about our experiences and about our feelings and how we actually are moving through our days and our lives. sharing things from our childhood that happened that maybe left us feeling a little bit uneasy and nervous or scared. When we release those things with each other, we create containers of safety. There's other things that we can do too. Is how to trust people, how to trust ourselves. So again, trust is one of those things where if I extending trust to somebody, they're going to step into a different way of being than if I say, I don't trust you until you prove me otherwise. In order to trust other people, though, you have to trust yourself. Because what you're carrying inside of yourself, if I don't trust myself and my decisions, I'm displacing that out onto you. If you can stop and think about a time when you didn't trust somebody else in the workplace, just stop and think about that. What was that like for you? What was the situation? Who was the person? And why didn't you trust them? Now, I invite you to take a step back and ask, in what ways, in my not trusting that person, did I actually not trust myself? At what point in time did I behave in that way myself? Usually there's a tie in there. Creating containers of safety really requires some mindfulness, certainly. It also requires courage. We need to use tools like what we talked about in Lisa's story, where we take time to step into mindfulness and to breathe and come into ease and to peace. When we get those things in order, we have space to create and be innovative because we have space for excitement and passion, and we follow our excitements. That's where radical, beautiful new ideas come from. That's where overnight you solve something that you've been struggling with for weeks. For my own self and my own work, if I'm getting stressed about something, I walk away. I've made a very clear choice that I don't do work around anything that causes me stress, which seems like a really stupid thing to do when I have my own business. The beautiful thing that happens, though, is when I get my system working properly, something that I know in the past is taking me weeks to move through, I'm able to move through in 2 days in terms of work accomplishment and creation. It's a beautiful process. So I invite you to try at least one of these things to see how it shifts things for you at work. Linda Rising, another wonderful human being, she does some work around change and how do we actually enact change and how do we do that fearlessly. She has a book. She's been in many, many different industries as a speaker, as a coach, and a consultant in organizations. And she just has a beautiful heart. That's why I invited her. And she talks about the power of expectation. It's one of those things. What we believe and expect in other people is what we are going to witness and experience in them. There was a Harvard Business Review study done some years ago that actually measured this information. And what they discovered was that when managers did not believe in their staff, that they are highly creative and innovative and amazing, when they believed that they were a problem and frustrating and slow and can't do things the way I need them to do it, the teams and the people on the team stepped into that behavior. The expectation that your manager has on you is affecting how you behave at work. They've measured this with thousands of people that they studied. The really great thing is that when your manager and when you believe in other people, they will step into behaving in accordance with your belief in a beautiful way. So if I go into a team meeting and I'm frustrated with my colleagues, guess what's going to happen? They're going to behave in ways that are frustrating to me. Or I'm just going to be frustrated by them no matter what they do. But if I go into a team meeting and I believe that they are innovative and creative and wonderful and have their best intention at heart, if I believe in them, then we have opportunity to create new things together. then we have opportunity to be phenomenal together. Because people will step into the space that you hold for them. Any parents in the room? Have you experienced this with your own children? I know that when I'm frustrated with my son and I think he's just doing stupid stuff, he just continues to do stupid stuff. He's 15 in a couple weeks, and he's at that age. So, but when I believe in his capability and his greatness and his ability to do wonderful things and behave in wonderful ways, he's a different person. And I don't need to say a word. It's just in how I am being and how I'm showing up. All of that comes through from here. Engaging our hearts to feel the goodness in other people. So to really change and to really be innovative, we need to listen, open-minded and open-hearted, to ourselves and what's really coming through for ourselves instead of dismissing all of our crazy ideas. Maybe they're really the right ideas, but also to other people and to the team and to our clients and to our customers without judgments. And that's the hardest thing ever, without judgments. We've all been conditioned and taught how to judge everything we encounter. We're good thinkers, so we think and judge everything. But we need to step outside of that. And to be open-minded and open-hearted means that you can say anything you want, and I'm going to just be with you. You can say that you wrote some awful code, and it's going to take days to tear apart, and I'll say, oh, I'm here with you. How can I help? Not beating up on you for making a stupid mistake or not knowing better, but saying, you did the best you could in the moment. How can we solve this together? It really comes down to using care to create the magic that we're seeking. So you go back to the Virgin example, and I'm sure you can think of other companies. Maybe you work in such a company that feels magical. I would love to see, does anyone work in a place like that? Raise your hand. It's like 5 hands that went up. Congratulations. That's amazing. And we need a lot more of that. When it comes down to it, we're going to a job, and we're working, and we're spending more time there than we do with our own families and our friends on the regular. And if it's not feeling magical, what are you doing? Why are you there? Magic for you might feel different than it does for me. But maybe sit into the space of how can I use care with myself? How can I use care with other people? And how can I use care with my work to feel good about it, to feel satisfied about it? If you just feel satisfied and at peace with it, maybe that's enough for you. If you feel like excited and passionate when you're showing up all the time, amazing too. It doesn't matter. What is true for you? And how can I extend that? There's another man that you know, Jose. I'm so grateful to be here all the time. I just need a time check. I don't know what time I have. Okay, we're almost there. Thank you. So I spoke with Jose, and this is my 5th year here. My first year is in 2014. And I was so impressed that first year with how the conference ran and with all of the people who put this together, the whole team. I fell in love with them right away. I'm like, how can I be involved again? Like, I'm just so grateful that I got to come. And I'm so grateful to the entire team because they try really crazy things. And Jose talks about the crazy. And he shared with me some stories around some of the crazy. And, one of the things that he talked about was, like, how do I just have fun? How do we have fun as an organization? If there's an idea that my team has that's really exciting and fun to them, we're happy to try it. Let's just try it and see what happens. And if it doesn't work out, then we know, and that's okay. But I really just want my team to have fun and to enjoy it. And if we lose money along the way, it's okay. We know how to make money. We'll figure it out. What an inspired way of being. What if we chose to just have fun? What does fun feel like in your body? Are you, like, stuck? I'm standing like this. You know, those stand-ups where people are standing around like this the whole time and looking at the floor and like, I don't want to be there. They're not having fun. If they are, they're very good actors. But what would it be like to bring fun? So for you personally, if your workspace isn't fun, are you going to wait for somebody else to make it fun for you, to make it happy for you? Do you know how long you might be waiting? Forever. Why would you put responsibility for your own feelings and emotions on your leadership team or other people in the workplace? You have the power and authority to change that for yourself. You can be the sole person in your team showing up and saying, I'm having a great day, how are you? And they're going to look at you and say, everything's falling apart. Like, yeah, but how much fun is this? You could be the crazy person having a good time, and other people are going to look at you and say, I don't know what they want, but I want some of that. And maybe they'll come and join you too. I've done that in teams that I've worked in also, where things were just dire and stressful all the time. So when I shared in my talk yesterday, we just shifted and said, we're not doing the overtime anymore. We're done that hamster wheel. We're putting some boundaries in place, and we're taking half a day every week as a team to do whatever we want. And oftentimes we just did silly stuff together. We were the team outside, like doing just fun activities, like untangling ourselves from like a human jumbled mess with a rope. And just really crazy, weird things that people were looking out the windows going, what's going on with Selena's department? But we were having fun. And with that fun, we had space to create and be innovative and solve problems. We actually were able to do a lot more work in a shorter amount of time. It's really cool. So with joy and passion, which I adore Jose for, he brings huge amounts of it. And the entire team here at Agile Testing Days in his company, that's where they live. And I've never not seen them there. That's how they create this incredible events. That's how they have all of these activities where you can choose to like be awake all the time and laughing and having great conversations all the time. It's why I keep coming back to this event, because I value that, and I see that they do too. When you're stressed at work and you're not able to access that space of happiness or satisfaction or fun or delights, I invite you to just take a pause and go back into that space of breathing and just breathe slowly and deeply to shift your entire system, to turn off all of the crazy that's going on inside, and just breathe. I'm going to invite you to do that right now. Just close your eyes. And think about something that's stressing you right now. Maybe I'm stressing you. You can think about that. And just feel into that. Feel into that stress for a moment. Then we're going to let it go. So I'm going to count for you a pattern of breath. Just keep your eyes closed. Keep breathing slowly. And you're going to breathe in to the count of 4. And you're going to hold it for the count of 4. Breathe out for the count of 4. And then hold it out for the count of 4. We're going to do a couple of rounds with that. So breathe in. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now hold it out. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now breathe it out. 1, 2, 3, 4. And hold it out. 1, 2, 3, 4. How does the stressful thing feel now? Do you feel a shift? Raise your hand if you felt a shift. Pretty good number. That was only 1 round. That was 16 seconds. 16 seconds is all it takes. If you're still feeling it, still feeling some stress or anxiety or annoyance, frustration, fear, whatever, do it a few more times. Do it for 10 rounds. your entire system is going to shift. And then what you can do, the next thing you do, is step into, when was the time that I felt a lot of joy at work? And feel that moment, remember that moment, feel it go into every cell in your body, and bring that. And then when you step into the next thing at the workplace or in your life, whatever's going on, carry that with you. So what you're doing is shifting that crazy pattern into coherence, into calm, so that you can access here to connect with people, to connect with yourself, to connect with your work, to connect with new and creative, innovative ideas without being stressed and freaking out, without being scared to bring your new ideas forth, that you feel safe. You feel safe to explore new things with people, and you feel connected to those people so that they can do that with you too. They feel that safety with you. Because when you show up that way and you make a difference in that way within yourself, everyone around you is going to start to shift too. And I've seen that happen all the time. It happens for me with my son. When I've meditated in the morning before I see him, man, those are good days with him. He's calmer because I'm calmer. When I'm in coherence, he's more in coherence. The same thing happens with our team members at work. So my invitation for you is, how can you step into innovation with your heart first? Which means you step outside of your brain and step into feeling in your body and step into care and compassion with other people, care and compassion with yourself, stepping into mindfulness in the moment so that you can engage the creation that comes through here. Because as we started out with, we talked about what is it like to innovate? When you're really creative and innovative, you're excited, you're engaged, you're passionate. You can't necessarily think your way into that. If your body is firing all the wrong signals, you can't access this. This is what it takes to get into like high innovation, high success in organizations. This is what happens in places like Virgin, with Richard Branson and other like people here, the Agile Testing Days teams. Some people are just naturally doing this. They don't even know that they're following these things. But if you're in a space of, in a pattern of being stuck all the time, or most of the time, these are some tips that some beautiful people that I highly respect and admire have shared with me, which I offer to you to take whatever lands for you, whatever fits for you, so that you can create a culture of innovation at your workplace. And I'm complete. Thank you.